This is BACKTALK by Successful Black Parenting Magazine, the most listened to podcast for parents by parents.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to BACKTALK by Successful Black Parenting Magazine. This is the talk show and live stream podcast for parents. I'm Janice Robinson Celeste, your host and publisher of Successful Parenting Media. Now, I want you to share your broadcast, so if you can share it right now with all of your friends and followers. That really helps us a lot. It helps us to compete with the bigger publishers and companies out there doing that. And, you know, we're small, so we really need to grow because this is an important platform for us to speak. If you have any questions, you can share them with us easily. Usually, actually not now, do it on Instagram. Usually you can share them with us on Facebook, on our page, which is Successful Black Parenting. But today you're going to comment in this section. And if you had some experience in this or you know people, tell us what you know. We want to know because this is something we need to start exploring, right? And if I get your comments or whatever, I may actually mention them if I see them down there and talk about it. We'll talk about it live on air. So today, welcome to BACKTALK. We have Shakora Norwood. Hey, Shakora.
Sandoval. Yes,
Sandoval.
I haven't been to Norwood in years.
I'm so used to the Norwood.
I know, it's
Sandoval. My bad.
It's all good. That's because you've known me so long.
Still. Right, and I know I told you I'd be like, I had to, it took a switch, right?
Yes.
But Shakora is an entrepreneur of Get Lashed, and she's awesome. She is the mother of 2 boys. She's African-American, and she gave birth to her oldest son in the States, right? And
Yes.
your newborn in the Dominican Republic, aka DR. And today we're going to discuss and compare the differences in healthcare, especially maternity care and delivery in the United States versus other countries. And if you're watching and you're African American, you've had any experiences with birthing in a country outside of the US, I want to hear from you. Comment below and let us know your story, because your story actually can end up as an article, because I will be like, this is so good, we need to make it into an article, and that's what I want to do here. So Shakora, first tell the listeners more about yourself.
Oh my gosh, so I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I am, again, like you said, an entrepreneur. This birth and getting pregnant is a story in itself. My plan was not to have the baby overseas. And everybody thought I was literally crazy. I've heard everything from, can you do that? Do people have babies? I'm like, people are born all over the world, but yes. I've heard that, well, is the baby going to be an immigrant? Yes, I've literally heard every scenario. Can you fly when you're pregnant? I didn't think you could fly. So, yes, so the story is wild, but I met my fiance in the Dominican Republic on vacation. So, and that was part of my reason for having the baby there. So it depends on how depth you want to go into the story and how I chose to decide to have the baby, or just dive straight into the birth.
Well, don't go into the birth yet, but you decided, you had an interesting story because you were pregnant when you met your fiance. He took over, which is amazing. You know, it's an amazing man to say, hey, you're pregnant with somebody else's kid, but I'm going to be that dad. And that's amazing. That's pretty much amazing right there. But you decided to did you know anything about hospitals in DR? Did you have any idea?
So what happened was, because I'm an optimistic person, and I really thought that we were going to file for the K-1 fiance visa, and I was just going to bring him here. And, you know, being optimistic, I was like, oh, this will take 3 to 5 months. By the time the baby is here, you'll be here. We can have the baby in the States. Well, we had a series of things that did not go. And it got to the point where I was like, well, you're not going to make it here in time, and I need to stop hoping and praying and wishing that you will make it in the States in time to have the baby together, and I need to come up with a plan B. So the plan B was, you know, it's like, why don't I have it there? So the crazy part is, I went at 6 months pregnant, and I saw how easy it was to go to the doctor. And that's honestly what prompted me to have the baby there. So in the DR, you know, here, ironically, I did both. So I tried to make it a doctor's appointment. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't go consistently. You know how some, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant, let me go to the hospital every 5 minutes, or let me go to a doctor's appointment every month. No. Obviously feeling comfortable with my first son and just kind of like, this is my second go around, I kind of knew that I didn't have to rush to the, you know, I think when you're a first time mom, you're just so excited and you're like, okay, I need to go to every doctor's appointment. And again, being a two-time business owner, I just did not have the time and the flexibility to just keep going. And, and then again, insurance, being out of the loop with that, it's just been a mess. So again, there was a lot of series of why I chose to go to the Dominican Republic. So first of all, I tried to get a doctor here. So I tried to get insurance, and the insurance, I was outside of the enrollment.
Mm-hmm.
So then there was that. So then my very first doctor's appointment, I paid out of pocket. But then they were like, well, you have to do a series of blood tests and, stuff like that, the gastro, whatever. And they're like, well, that's going to be $1,500. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to spend $1,500 on one doctor's appointment. That's ridiculous. So when I planned on going to the Dominican Republic to see my fiance again, I was like, you know what? I should just have my doctor's appointment there. He's like, okay, no problem. So he literally, when I say the simplicity of getting a doctor's appointment gave me my aha moment. So I got there, and at this point, I was around 5 months pregnant. I was around 5 months going on the 6th month, and I was like, we should probably go in and check on the baby, just make sure, it's the right size, there's not like a third arm, that type of thing. So, yeah, so he was like, okay. So he literally, I don't know if he used Google or he knew a doctor. He was just like, we could just, no, I think the very first doctor's appointment, he just knew where a hospital was. So we literally went, we parked our car, and he was like, hey, my fiance is having a baby. Can we see a doctor? And they were like, yeah, absolutely. We waited less than 5 minutes, and we immediately went into the saw doctor. She did the ultrasound. She did all the tests right then and there. And it was easy. And I think we spent American US $50. Wow. So I was in and out with less than an hour for $50. And at that point, I was like, oh my God. Like, first of all, I couldn't get an appointment in the US. I had to book it 2 weeks out, and it took forever getting the insurance. And then they told me it was $1,500. So I was like, $1,500 compared to $50. And my flight to the DR is what, $200? So I was like, between the flight and the cost of seeing the doctor, this is crazy. This is insane. So I was telling my fiance, I was like, this is crazy. So at that point, as I got further along, in my pregnancy, I'm going now on 7 months, 8 months. And I was just like, you know what? I think I called a doctor here in the US. So at this point, I'm almost 8 months pregnant. So now I'm trying to weigh out my options. And I called, I said, hey, I'm pregnant. I'm now ready to get a doctor. Can I make an appointment? And the doctor, I guess the person answering the phone, the receptionist, was like, yeah, how far along are you? And I was like, oh, about 8 months. There's no doctor that's going to take you. None. So at this point, you're going to have to go to the emergency room because you're too far along in your pregnancy. So if you have any complications, if you feel sick, you can go to, because at this point, I was kind of gearing myself up to go to the Dominican Republic, but I wanted to make sure I was safe to fly because everybody kept saying, oh, you can't fly after 36 weeks. So what I told myself was, well, maybe I'll go to the doctor's appointment here in the States, have them clear me to fly, and then I'll go there. So I spoke to a receptionist at the doctor's office, and she said, no doctor is going to physically see you at 8 months pregnant. Mm-hmm. You have to go to either, what did they say? What's not the emergency room when you go to CVS?
Walk-in clinics. Yeah, those walk-in clinics. Yeah.
So at that point, she's like, you can go to urgent care and just say you have a complication at that point, and then they can maybe they can test it around, see if you're okay. So I'm like, that's my only option, and she's like, that's your only option. So I was just like, another thing that prompted me and I felt so comfortable to have the baby overseas is that my pregnancy was virtually like smooth. I had nothing. I mean, I think I had like a little pain in my right knee that was really bad because the baby was sitting on like a bad nerve. But outside of that, I had no morning sickness. I didn't gain a ton of weight. I exercised the whole way through. I literally worked up and day to the day that I left to DR. I had multiple flights. So one of my businesses is in Atlanta. So I could not just say, I can't go to Atlanta. I had to go to Atlanta. So I flew at 8 months pregnant. So I said, well, there's no one at the airport that says, hey, wait, how pregnant are you? You can't get on this flight. Mm-hmm. So when I realized that, I said, okay, so this rule doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So when I did further research, it's basically up to your discretion and up to your doctor's discretion. So people kept asking me, like, you're going to fly at 38 weeks? I was like, yeah, no one's going to stop me at the airport I mean, unless I feel comfortable, there's no difference. And obviously, being that DR is only a 2-hour flight, I'm like, I sit in traffic on a Friday afternoon. So what is the difference? Other than obviously, yes, air pressure, but again, there's no scientific research that says, you know, if you get on an airplane such and such feet in the air, you're going to damage your baby. No, it just says it's just not a good idea because you can go into labor in the air.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I had no early signs of labor at all. So at that point, I was like, you know what? I have no early signs of labor. Why not? And it's going to save me so much money. So I had my fiance Google how much it would, well, not Google, ask a doctor, the same doctor that we went to when I was 5 months pregnant, how much would be the cost to have the baby overseas. So she said $1,700. We're like, $1,700, and I get to have birth. I was like, and I have a C-section. So my first son was a C-section. And so she's like, yes, we're going to recommend you to have another one here as well. And that's going to be the cost. And I was like, well, is there a payment plan, or, you know, just getting my options out? And they're like, no, well, to have the baby, you have to pay, you know, the day of the surgery, and then you leave. So I was like, okay, cool. So our biggest issue was, okay, how to get the baby back home. Because like I said,
Wait, don't get into that yet. Don't go into yet. I'm going to address that later, because that was what I was wondering, because you did that pretty fast. I was wondering about that. But first of all, I got to say, disclaimer, we never recommend that women don't go to their monthly doctor's appointments.
Right.
I understand why you didn't. Everybody is different, but you should really go, if you know, but you know, I understand why you didn't, but like I have to say that.
I didn't go because a couple of reasons. A, I couldn't get an appointment. Mm-hmm. B, the insurance. So right. I filed for Medicaid, even though I knew I wouldn't get approved for it. I didn't get approved for it. And again, I'm running 2 businesses. I have an 8-year-old. I'm literally going crazy. So again, I use Google as my best friend. I don't recommend it, but I had 0 complications. So it was just like, you can count your fetal movements. You know, like if the babies continue to kick, you feel the baby kicking, then technically you're in the clear. So I was like, well, he's kicking up a storm. I feel great physically. It didn't make sense. Mm-hmm. Right.
Right. Okay. So we're getting some questions, especially from Nurse Doctor 1. So I have lots of questions too, Nurse Doctor 1. I'm going to ask 2, but that's one question. I don't know if you can see it on your Instagram, but we have some questions. But yeah, so you did that. It was cheaper. I get that. I totally understand that, because I know even with insurance that you purchase or you get yourself, that it's awful. Like the deductibles are high.
And the biggest issue was I already was pregnant. So
right.
when I did call for the marketplace, I did speak to an insurance agent, and they said, okay, the cheapest one we can find you is going to run you about $500 a month, and you're going to have to pay $1,200 out of pocket costs, you know, the day of you have the baby. So I'm doing the math on $500 a month, and plus having the baby, you know, the day of the actual appointment. And I was like, okay, well, let me shop around. And then that's when I filed for Medicaid. Medicaid took forever. At this point, I'm going on 5 or 6 months. I have my first visit to the DR. And then, like I said, with that visit going so smooth and so easy, I said, you know what? Wait, I could fly back to the DR multiple times and have my doctor visits there.
Absolutely. So that's all very interesting, because, okay, so DR, what part of DR were you in, first of all? Because they're different words.
Yes. So my fiance lives in Santo Domingo, and he can actually tell me the name of the hospital. I forget which one.
So that's a very nice area. There are areas that have, like, you know, third world country hospitals. So I just wanted to clarify what the quality of the hospitalization was for you, but we're going to get into that too.
Okay.
One person asked, what the nurse asked, what was the doctor who cared for you in DR even concerned about, or was it, I'm not sure, she was asking if you were concerned about the previous C-section that you had, because why did you have a C-section in the first place with your first child?
Oh, sure. Great question. I had a C-section just because it was recommended. My first son, I was after 40 weeks. I think I was like almost 41 weeks. And I went for my final checkup. Again, you know, those checkups, they're like daily, like, okay, you know. And so finally I went to my final checkup, and they're like, why are you still pregnant? And, you know, me, I was like, I don't know. And they're like, well, we think you should have the baby today. So they induced me. And so I was induced with my first son, and he still didn't come. So at that point they said, you know, the heart rate, baby, is fast. What did they say? They said the fluid is low.
I would say that though, but I'm not saying it's not true.
Right.
But I get that, and they broke my water. So okay.
No, they said, and They said the baby is in distress. I mean, I was induced. I mean, I was in the hospital a good couple hours. I'm not sure. I can't remember how long. And then they finally came in like, no, we got to take this baby out. And at that point, you know, you're laid up and drugged out. You're just like, okay, whatever you guys think is best. Looking back on it, I definitely feel like, you know, it was rushed. They made me have, you know, a C-section. But at the same time, like my son was, I wasn't dilated. I mean, I don't even think I got up to like 5 centimeters. Like he just was not coming.
He's ready to go sleep, chill out, and stay in there for a while. Now I don't blame him. I don't blame him.
Right.
Yeah. So I just want to reiterate for the people who are just joining, because the reason I wanted to discuss this topic of African American women having babies outside of the U.S. is because even the highest educated Black woman has 3 times the chance of dying in childbirth than the least educated white woman, and infant mortality rates for Black babies is about the same. And then there's the cost of delivering babies in the States is expensive. I'm not recommending that you do one or the other, but I want to talk about it. Right. Black women are also looking, and somebody mentioned this, that they're also are looking to have their babies at home with midwives now, which I found out somehow, and I'm not sure if it changed, was illegal in Atlanta. We're just discuss that too.
Oh, wow.
So they have to kind of go, you know, behind the scenes, and, you know, they partner with the doctor. And I know, you know, they partner with the doctor, and it's usually a good thing as long as there's no complications. And the doctors have a hospital, so the baby can go to hospital if necessary. But there's so many Black women looking to have their babies at home in other countries now, or basically seeking alternatives. So we are discussing this topic today, and I want to hear all sides, all, you know, people who have done it, who doctors who like, ooh, whatever. Tell me. I want to know. I want to hear about it. Shakur, what are the ages of your children?
So my son is 8. He will be 9 in January. And then my newborn is 1 month in a couple days. So He'll be 2 months on the 17th of December.
Okay. So before we get into immigration and all that, let's talk about what were the contrasting differences between the 2 births as far as hospital quality and care. Okay. Can you address that a little bit?
Yes. So I'm not going to lie to you. I had my son in Marietta, Georgia, in one of the newer hospitals. I forget the name of it. It's been so long. Anyway, so it was a very nice hospital. I mean, you name it, they had it. You know, it was, like I said, it was one of the newer ones. So it was pristine. It was clean. Like I said, it was nice. You know, everything was, you know, top standard. I didn't have any issues at all with the hospital with my son in Marietta, Georgia. Like I said, other than being induced and not being induced, but other than having the C-section, you know, because that's not, obviously I wanted to have my son naturally, but outside of that, I feel like I didn't have control over. Like once the doctor was like, no, we're having a C-section, what else can you do? So outside of that, like I said, my hospital experiences was great. I think I stayed, 3 days? You know, they fed me, you know, everything was great. Okay. Now this hospital, I'm not going to lie to you. It was not new. It was old, but you felt like it had the necessities. And the great thing about it is that there's multiple doctors in it. Like, as soon as you walk in, there's multiple people, there's multiple doctors on multiple floors. So it was a hospital kind of like ours, but it was just way smaller. But the one thing about the DR I want to say is that I have a sense of comfortability. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever been, or, you know, especially because this is a successful Black. I mean, when I go to the DR, I literally feel at home. So there's an at home, even though obviously there's a language, you know, I know Spanish, but I'm not fluent. And my fiance is fluent. And so believe it or not, when we met, he didn't speak one word in English, not one. He can barely say hello. But I don't know. I feel extremely comfortable being there because everyone looks like me. So and there's a sense of home to that. And like I said, I don't know, again, the people there are genuinely just nice and caring and like warm. Like it's literally like no place I've ever traveled. And I want to say, like, I got a couple of books on my passport. So I don't know. Again, I've just felt a sense of peace. So yes, the hospital wasn't top tier. It wasn't super nice. No. But did I feel safe? Absolutely. I felt safe with my fiance interpreting for me. And I get into that too. It's so funny because like because he's learning English. So he took an English class after, you know, we met, and he's been learning like a bunch of stuff. And so he just feels confident with interpreting for me, because we typically use like a Google Translate. You know, if the conversation gets too, you know, deep and heavy, we'll pass each other the phone. But like throughout the whole doctor's experience, he's just like, you know, they're going back and forth, and he's not like, and I'm like, okay, tell me what they said, and he's not like, oh, it's okay, and I'm like, no, tell me what they said.
Right.
Like he's not like, oh, baby's fine, baby's good, and I'm like, no, I need word for word. Use the app.
Right.
But yeah, so I think that was another aspect of it that made it go smoothly, that he literally was like, he did everything for me. He literally did everything. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Oh,
So down to the work, down to, the driving, he did everything. So it was, I just showed up and had a baby.
Right. And we had a couple of questions earlier about Medicare, and you talked about that a little bit. I'm not going to go get into it too much, but you guys know she's a new entrepreneur. So when you're a new entrepreneur, money's tight. Like you're not really making money. You're trying to get this off the ground. So she's not like this necessarily wealthy entrepreneur that's like boom, 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 boom. So you know that's another thing. And it's ups and downs in entrepreneurship. Like one minute you're up here, then you're like, wow, making money. The next day you're like, oh no, you know where my money go? I don't have no money.
Yeah, I knew I could qualify for Medicaid. I knew I could do both ways. I could save my income and pay, or I could say my income's this and get Medicaid. But what happened was, when I originally filed for Medicaid, and the thing is, they really don't want you to get it. That's my.
That's my feeling
they mail
about
you 3 reasons why you didn't get approved. So I got denied, and they were like, "Well, you have to counter. You have to come back and refile again." You know, that whole scenario. And I was just like, I don't feel like doing all this. Yeah. So then that's when I called to see how much would it be if I just paid for actual insurance. And then that's when they quoted me the $500, you know, a month, and then the $1,200 delivery fee. And then I was willing to do that. But I'm like, okay, but let me just, when I need it. You know what I'm saying? I was still weighing out my options. I feel like I was like, throughout my entire pregnancy, I kept trying to weigh out my options on what I wanted to do. And again, this year, opposed to last year, my business definitely took a major hit. And that was something, I'm not going to lie to you, you know, was my fear. I mean, obviously, you're always going to have money to, you know, have birth. That's not an excuse. But if you can cut costs somewhere, it's like, I had to find it. You know what I'm saying? And then also, a part of that is that my fiance, he really wanted to be at the birth. And a little backstory, you know, I'm getting personal here. But even though I was married with my first son, husband, my ex-husband, he wasn't at my birth. He wasn't at his son's birth because he was, you know, incarcerated. And so to me, I just was like, I don't want to go through this again. I don't want to have a baby and my significant other is not in the room with me. So between financially, emotionally, and I just was like, I want to have it with him. So I think that also prompted me to have it in DR.
And no one wants to have birth alone. That's not something most people want to do. So I totally get that. So let's talk about now. You had this beautiful baby, right? You know, it's funny because they have a gene in the side of their family. We have it too, but it's more rare. It seems like on our side of the family where the blonde hair pops out, and your babies have blonde hair. And I was just talking about this with some Norwegians on Facebook today and arguing. They were basically promoting eugenics. And I was saying to them, and I was just really, if you ever find that conversation, I was messing with them. Like I had time. I just was messing with them. Like I didn't even care at one point what I was saying was totally 100% accurate. I was just like, so I was messing with them. So, but I was trying to tell them that, you know, even in Black communities, like you can't have a pure race. There's no such thing as a pure race because, you know, first of all, blonde hair, blue eyes are recessive genes, right? So it's a mutation.
I know they're supposed to have blue eyes.
Right. That's how I was like, it's a mutation that people want to propagate. And you know, usually the mutations, we don't want to propagate those. And the Nazis didn't want to propagate any other mutations except for the blonde hair, blue eyes, and a few other features, right? But those are the main ones. And I was just saying to them, that in the Black community, even with the opposite, if we have one, you know, gene somewhere where we have blue eyes and blonde hair, that can pop out at any time, hundreds of years later. So there's nothing pure about anybody's genes. And the fact that the oldest skeletons were found in, with African descent. They found in different places, but with African, they came from Africa, like Bulgaria. They found the oldest skeleton ever, and they found out they were from where? Africa. So anyway,
Yep.
so that means those Nazis that are trying to have a pure race with recessive genes, basically you can't, because even if it's 0.000001 in their DNA that they're from Africa, it's still there. You can't just, whitewash it away with breeding. And then with, there's a lot of complications with that. So anyway, so I was saying, and in your family, you have that blonde hair gene that popped up. So I think that's interesting because we have it too. Yeah, we have that too. And it's just interesting. I think it's just interesting. So, but let's get back to immigration now.
Yes.
Immigration. I went on a tangent for a minute.
And it's so funny, before we move to the blonde hair subject. So my first son is mixed. His dad is Latino and white. So my first son's dad, he is not black at all. And so, commonly it's like, okay, your baby came out a little light skin with blonde hair. Okay, we can see why. And then his mother, my ex-husband's mother, she's not blonde, but she's like a cherry blonde. So we're like, oh, the blonde came from him. So, him and his side of the family. But it's so funny because my second son, my newborn, he's even whiter than my first son, and his hair is even blonder, and both parents are black with black hair. So, I mean, both parents are, mixed,
we all
but
are now.
It's funny that the child with both black parents came out lighter and with more blonde hair than my first son, who actually is mixed. So it's wild.
It's the Eve gene. We have it as black women. If you guys don't know what the Eve gene is, Google it. It's a thing. Not making that up. It's a beautiful thing to know. Black girl magic. That's what it is.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, that's what we have. But so, were you concerned about not being able to bring the baby back right away?
So don't ever listen to any of your friends or family members, because they're all going to call you crazy. But Google is always on your side. And it's so funny because that's honestly how I've made it this far in business and almost every aspect of my life. I don't assume, I don't think, I literally just look it up. I look it up and I assess it from there. So at this point, I think what was the positive, I was like, look, you guys have children there. So I know it's safe to have a baby overseas because you have a country full of people. So I got that from that synopsis alone. But then I was like, I really started to think, when I did my Google search, I thought about it, like, because you hear those stories like, oh my gosh, this girl got pregnant on the plane and the plane had to emergency land.
Absolutely.
And I thought about that. So if a plane, let's say you were traveling out of the country and you just so happen to land in a different country, is the baby still American? And sure enough, yes, the baby is still American. Just because you flew into a different country does not make the baby non-American. So basically that's what we had to file. So it's called an emergency birth abroad. So technically, if this is an emergency birth, or you just so happen to give birth in a different country, the baby is still American. It's not like, that type of thing. So with that being said, you can get a U.S. passport and you can bring the baby back. And it's actually quite common.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And that process was actually easier than most people. Yeah. It was literally a document, a fee, and we got it all done within one day.
Which is amazing, because how long are we waiting for passports in the States, actually? You know what I mean? So that's pretty good, especially with COVID and the pandemic. It's been so long to get passports.
Now, technically, had we, it is a process, because, because I'm not going to lie to you. According to Google, it says 6 weeks. It says you can't have the baby fly back until the baby is 6 weeks old. But then it also said, ask your doctor. So I was like, well, I can't say 6 weeks in the DR. That's impossible. I have my son over here. I have my businesses over here. I was like, I'm not going to be 6 weeks in the DR. I said, if I have to spend a month, I'll spend a month. But again, it was all up to the doctor's discretion. Again, I did my Google research on, how old does a baby have to be to fly? And, again, people are like, oh, you can't fly with a baby that's only a month old. That's not true. So I flew back when my baby was only 2 weeks old. So, again, it's the doctor was like, yeah, why not? Take him on a plane.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So wait, so I'm assuming, did your baby have any immunizations before you flew? Because at 2 months, what they do they get it? I think
No,
they get
because
something. I can't
he's
remember. It's been
too
a minute.
little for
Okay,
immunization. He's only 2 weeks old.
okay. I had to do my
Hmm.
research on that one.
So
But
it's
I don't remember.
basically up to your discretion. It's like if you
Okay,
have to go back home, you have to go back home.
I see. So how do you protect your baby on the plane? What did you do from like stuff, like
I
anything
mean,
from?
obviously we're still in COVID, so
Yeah,
everybody was still, masked, which actually was nice.
good. Helps.
But outside of that, there's nothing
Okay,
you can really do. You can't put
right.
a mask on a baby, but everybody
No, you
else
can't.
was. So.
That's definitely a big deal that they had
Hmm.
masks on because they had just had the flu or something, or they, we're always worried about them getting RSV or whooping cough, whooping. I can't get out today. Whooping cough,
Hmm.
stuff like that. So I'm sure if everyone wearing masks and then now they had to have the
Hmm.
filters and they clean it and stuff, it's probably
Right.
much more safe than it
Probably
used to
safer
be.
now than ever before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No,
If you
that's
think about
great.
it that way, yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. So my question is, would you do it again?
I would. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Questions. This is the time to ask. Go ahead, keep going.
It was easy, and I think that's the one thing I like about the Dominican Republic is that, if you want, like, even like I said, our rent-a-car situation, like, oh, I want to rent a car for today. You pay the people, you can pay through the app, there's no, here you got to rent a car, you got to run, you got to pay the deposit that holds your credit card, the gas, the mileage, like when I say,
Mm-hmm.
yes, it's a third world country, but I feel like it's A, B, C. You want something, you buy it, you get it done. And I just feel like there's no hoops, there's no circles, there's no nothing. To me, it was just a walk in the park.
Wow. Okay. So obviously we have expats and other Black African American women having babies all over the world. Um, you picked DR because your fiance is there. I would love to hear from other people later, even if you've done this somewhere else, so we can kind of compare and contrast. Of course, as a successful Black parenting magazine, we're not saying, oh, do this or do that. It's totally up to you. You
Right.
weigh your options. She felt that's all she had at that point, and I get it, and it worked out well. And then she got to see a new side of medical care. It might not be as luxurious necessarily as the new hospital you had your first child in Atlanta.
And I love
but
the
it's safe.
communication we had with the doctor. Like, my fiance literally WhatsApped her. Every question we had, he was able to call her and speak to her directly, instantly. Like, and I was just like, you can, like, with my first son, I never spoke to of course, you call her office, the receptionist
Right.
answers, and then the receptionist answers. Well, we can't answer that. You have to come in and make an appointment. And then next, it's a $90 copay with the appointment.
Exactly.
Like, no, my fiance called the doctor. Hey, he was able to even text her. Hey, what do we need now? I mean, it's insane on the simplicity of like getting things done. And like I said, I was 38 and a half weeks when I got on the plane. I got there October 13th. We saw the doctor. We had to do all the blood tests instantly. And they're all different places. So we had to go get the blood test. Again, we went there. We paid the $50 and we left. They got it the next day. They were open on Sunday. I mean, it was just insane how much easier it was.
Right. And did you have the cesarean this time too? Did you have to do
Yes.
both?
So I
Okay,
had a
so you did
C-section there. Now, I will
Okay.
say that was a trip. So in America, my C-section, I was not put to sleep. You're awake the whole time. They numb you. And you have the baby. Now, they did attempt to have me awake this go around as well. But, they did like a pinch test, which is so funny because in America they didn't. They kept poking me with a needle to see if I still felt it or felt the pain of the needle. So they gave me the epidural to numb my stomach to prep me for the C-section. So what the doctor would do was pin me to see if I felt the pain or like if I felt the tug. He's like, hey, are your legs going numb? And I'm like, no, not yet. And he's like, do you feel this? And I'm like, I feel it. So after on the 10th, do you feel this? And I was like, yes, I feel the prick. He was like, I'm just going to put you to sleep. And I was like, okay, whatever.
Okay.
So he puts me to sleep, and I'm not going to lie to you. I swear to God, I thought I died. I never, because I got my breasts done. So I've been under before when I got my breasts done last year. And this one was different. I hit like a different realm of like sleep. And it was wild. It was a trip. And so when they woke me back up, and I was like, was there complications? Because I'm like, did I go under? Did I black out and then be resuscitated? And they were like, no. And they're like, I was like, I don't know. The light, girl, I saw all of that. I swear to God.
Oh my God.
No, like dead ass. And I was like, I didn't go under. Like I didn't die for like a couple seconds. They were like, no. Anyway, but that's my trip. But yeah.
That might have been your fear in your brain too.
Yeah. I mean, I was like different. Like I was knocked out. Like, yeah.
It was good sleep.
Yeah, so I don't know if
This was scary sleep.
the anesthesia in the DR are different from the anesthesia in America, but that I definitely did not feel. It was definitely out of body for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something else. That's really scary though.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Is everything? And they're like, no, they cut you out. Everything's fine. Baby's fine. I'm just like, really?
I wonder what they really tell you though. You know, I'm always skeptical. Would they really tell you? Who knows? I have no idea. But I know I appreciate you coming on and telling your story because you know there's a lot of African Americans looking to do a lot of different things and outside of the U.S. I belong to a Facebook group of African Americans who are moving outside of the U.S. They have done it. People have done it and successfully done it. So we're looking at alternatives for birth. And guys, if you joined us late, we're looking at Shakura's here to tell us about her birth experience in the DR. She had one birth here with her older son in the United States and one birth in the Dominican Republic. And we're comparing and contrasting the two because we know Black women here in the United States are looking for alternatives to hospital care because of the high mortality rate for Black moms, as well as for infants. There's a high mortality rate. So we're looking at everything from midwifery to now women are going outside of the United States. Now, I have to tell you guys this, because this is a common thing for other countries that often come here.
Right.
So they can get dual citizenship, which I'm gonna ask you about again, with the citizenship thing again too, because we have a lot of Russians that go to Florida and it's called maternity tourism, right? And they come here and they're able to apply for dual citizenships for these children. And it always makes me wonder, like, they playing chess with us because, you know, once those kids become 36 years old, I believe, they can literally run for president. But the Kremlin's going to be behind some of those births. So, I'm just saying, no conspiracy theories, but keep your eyes open 36 years or so. So anyway, but yeah, because, they're always into stuff in Russia with the United States, especially, Putin right now. He always hated the United States. So, but that's something that other countries do. Women in other countries do. They come here or to other countries to have their babies. So it's normalized.
His entire Dominican family was like, she's coming here to have the baby. We go there to have the baby. And I'm just
right.
So yeah, the only joke is you an American left America, the richest country in the world, to have the baby in the third world country.
I mean, sure, we have the money, but it's a fallacy that is full of sugar and honey, and then everything is great.
Literally our biggest fight. Like me and my friend, we never fight. Like we never argue. It's the corniest relationship ever. But if we disagree, it's literally between what he thinks America is and my country is shit. There's no good jobs. The money is terrible. Rah rah rah. And I'm like, come over here, buddy.
We're moving there, right? We're moving there on the ocean.
We're trying to leave the country,
right? But oceanfront property. We're trying to buy things up and do things in different countries because it's affordable.
Anything past the money. They can't see anything past the money.
But when they don't realize that the cost of living, so if you're making $35,000 a year, and that might sound good to them, but the cost of living is speed that up, right? So
he
that's
doesn't
what
get
people don't understand. Yeah. So let me ask you, what advice would you give a mother who is thinking about birthing outside of the United States? What would you say to them?
Fears in your mind. Like, honestly, like a million things could have gone wrong. Sure, why not? But that's fear. And it's and you know what they say about fear? Fear is fake. It's all in your mind. It's things that you thought up. Oh, this could go wrong, or and the reality of it is you're more likely to get in a car accident here in America on the way to the hospital. Anything that could have happened right here in the States, literally. So no, it's there, there is no such rule as you can't fly a certain amount of months. There is no such thing as, oh, my baby's not going to be able to come back in the States. None of that was real, you know, but it's a fear that, you know, most people kind of assumed, oh, you can do that and you can do that. And like I said, for me, I wanted to have my child with my fiance. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to risk it, you know, and there wasn't any risk at all, honestly. So yeah, don't let your thoughts be a reason why you don't do it, because no, people have healthy babies all over the world, even in third world countries, even with no hospital, even with nothing, you could still have a baby. It's so funny, like, because when I posted about it, you know, DR is known for their aesthetics. You know, a lot of people go there to have surgeries. So I'm like, okay, so women want themselves to go have surgery there, but the thought of having a baby is insane. And I'm like, what? That's the thing.
I mean, now there are some casualties that come out of those BBLs and things like that. But, you know, for the majority of the people that go there and do make it out, the statistics are higher for that than for death. But we tend to concentrate on the death because it's scary, right? So, I mean, it's realistic. It happens, and it's going to happen, like Pretty Z Kitty just said. It can happen anywhere. So it can happen in the United States. You know, of course, you know, we are going to be worried about the risk in another country. And especially because those are tight-knit communities, like they connect on Facebook before they even go to DR, and they know each other. So yeah, so it's scary either way.
But surgery itself is scary. Yeah, anything you do, I mean, like I said, infant mortality, America, I mean, they're always going to be, yes, a fear, but having it in it, you should not have a fear about having it in a different country, because people can be born all over the world. And that's kind of pushed me into saying, okay, well, you guys, you're fine, right? Like I said, even my fiance thought of everybody. I was literally the only, it wasn't until he didn't start freaking out until after, because he was like, are you going to make it on the plane? And I was like, I'm going to make it on the plane. I just flew last month. And yeah, he was just like, because he didn't even buy the car seat until the day of my flight. And I was like, you didn't buy? He was like, I just didn't think you could get on the flight.
Well, he wanted to make sure. He's like, the car seats are expensive. Okay.
Right. It's like, he actually got like a really high-end one too. The one that goes from car seat to stroller. Yeah. So
cool.
But he was like, I'm not until I know you're allowed to fly. But no, yeah, I'm definitely was allowed to fly. I felt good. I was comfortable. Like, the flight was full. You know, I was 9 months pregnant, and nothing. I just got off the flight.
Wow. I mean, that's amazing. It's an amazing story. I'm glad everything went perfectly for you, because, you know, like if there's any other with women, if you have any doubts about your pregnancy or concerns, this probably won't be your option. But if you feel safe and it's something you want to do, it's worth exploring, as well as
and that's another thing.
Like hospitals.
Yeah, I was extremely comfortable. Like, honestly, I was like I said, I went to the gym. I worked out 4 days a week. I went to work every single day. I mean, I felt fine, you know, and like I said, everybody's pregnancy is different, but I literally felt healthy. I didn't, like, outside of the pain in my knee, there was no complications at all, like none. So I was like, okay, well, this is and I took that as a sign for me to, okay, let's try it, you know.
Yeah. Well, we're way over time, which we often do, because we don't have any commercials, and we're not accountable to anybody but me. So with this whole thing, as far as sponsors, etc. So I just want to say, is there anything else you might want to shed light on that we did not address that people might want to know about? Or do you?
I feel like the biggest takeaway was the personal experience with the doctors. How easy it was, the WhatsApping her, any questions we had. I mean, even with the pediatrician, we definitely had to have, obviously, when the baby is born, they give you a pediatrician. The way she checked him out, they're just like, yeah. You know, and it's so funny because we asked the doctor if we were her first American, and she said no. You know, she said it was only about 2 of us, but we weren't her first American to have a baby over there. So, yeah, like I said, when the doctor is confident, and, you know, everybody felt good about it. So, yeah, it was meant to be.
Okay. Well, I forgot to ask this question. Thank you, Pretty Z Kitty. Dual citizenship. Does your baby qualify for that?
Yes, but you have to file. So because I was in such a rush to come back, we just got the U.S. passport. But because he was born in the Dominican Republic, I can go get a Dominican passport too.
Okay. No, that's awesome. So he'll have two passports? Is that
Yeah,
how it works?
yeah,
Or?
you can have two. Mm-hmm.
That's nice to have an option, right? So if anything
Yeah,
goes crazy, you can
but
go
the
to
thing
another
is with
place.
the Dominican Republic, because that's the issue that me and my fiance have, is that his passport goes nowhere. I mean, it
I
does.
see. That's true.
No, it literally goes nowhere.
I know what you mean.
It's about 16 countries he can go, and they're called no visa passports. Which basically means it goes to other third world countries. Whereas the American passport, you can go to Cucamonga and come back with no issue at all. But theirs, because the country is considered, poor, and when you have a country, you think about it logically. If you give everybody a passport to go wherever they want, you have no country because it's so much better. Everyone's leaving.
Yeah.
So they can't. So that's the issue we're going through now. And we may go a different route. We may do the work visa route than the K-1 visa. So yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guys, if you joined late, I'm going to have this up for a replay. This is a very, very interesting topic, and I want you to share it with other people because we were talking about having babies in other countries for African American women because of the high infant mortality rate and high maternal mortality rate here in the United States, which is 3 times higher for the most educated Black woman versus the least educated white woman. So our moms are dying 3 times as much, and it's not being talked about enough. I'm starting to see groups form and people talking in court about it, people talking, in Congress about it, different committees being formed, but it's not discussed enough. And the reasons why are just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous, and most of it has to do with biases, unconscious biases, a lot, sometimes conscious. And they just don't listen. The doctors aren't listening to us. And I know I'm going to hear comments from all kinds of doctors and administrators and, all over the U.S. about this conversation.
And that's
when we did the one on midwifery, we got people were really upset with us. But I don't care.
But that's another thing about the DR. Like, if anybody knows anything about DR, everybody's Black. I don't care what nobody say. We see Dominicans here and they're light skin and curly hair. When you actually go to Dominican Republic, they're Black. They're Black. So to go to a hospital where everybody is you, there is no. It's so funny because I talked to my fiance about race and the whole how it is here and how segregation and just like money, the elite status, stuff like that. And he goes, well, here, Mike, when everybody's all the same thing, you have that lower chance of, the disparity of, like I said, Black women, unable to have, childbirth and, or, a successful birth. We have so much more complications where in the DR, it's not like that. These are people who look like you, who do this every single day. Like, it's crazy. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, even the statistics for Black children that are being born, they have a higher rate of being alive and surviving childbirth if they have a Black doctor. That's another statistic that came out within the past few years. It's amazing. It's because we kind of understand each other. And I always hear white people who say they're colorblind, which is not a good thing to be colorblind because we're proud of our color and our culture because it represents our culture, right? But as far as them saying they're colorblind and all this, they don't listen. They don't understand that people have different experiences. So we may be all human beings, as they like to say. We're all the human race. Yes, we are, but we have different experiences. My experiences are different from yours. Your experiences are different from mine. We were raised differently. Even if you were raised poor, white people don't have to worry about the color of their skin being a block for anything. Like, if you're able to not think about that, that's great for you. Because when I go to apply for a job, I'm looking at who's in the C-suite too to see if I wonder they're going to be biased. I wonder are they going to hire me? Or, I know I have the qualifications. I know I'm professional. I know I dress professionally. Are they going to really hire me? Because, I don't see anybody who looks like me, So these are things that they found in healthcare.
You have to think about having a child, like that should be your least worry,
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Shakur. I want to thank you for coming on Back Talk today. I'm sorry, our actual live stream. I'm going to try to download this video and get the audio for our podcast. And I want to thank you all for participating and listening to Back Talk by Successful Black Parenting Magazine, the talk show and podcast for parents. I want you guys to share this replay of the broadcast with anyone who needs to hear it, and let's get the word out Be sure to visit our syndicated podcasts on Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, Android, and more. Don't forget to check out our website at successfulblackparenting.com, which is full of great content, by the way, to help you thrive and not just survive as a parent. And you can also engage with us on social media from our website. Until next time, I wish you all the best and much success. So take care.
Thanks for tuning in to Back Talk by Successful Black Parenting Magazine. We'll see you soon.